On September 5, 2025, Europe made history. In a moment that will be remembered for generations, the continent's leaders gathered to take a stand unlike any before. 26 nations united to form the Coalition of the Willing, a groundbreaking security alliance pledging to defend Ukraine with binding guarantees. This was not just a symbolic gesture, but a concrete commitment to collective defense. From Paris to Berlin, leaders declared an end to ambiguity. Europe would no longer stand by as Ukraine fought for survival. The message was clear. The era of hesitation was over, replaced by decisive action and solidarity. In Brussels, the coalition's flags flew beside Ukraine's, symbolizing a new era of European resolve. The sight of so many nations' banners together sent a powerful signal to the world. For Ukrainians, this was more than politics. It was hope, a lifeline in their struggle. Families in Kyiv and across the country felt a renewed sense of security, knowing they were not alone. Europe, long reliant on the US for security, now steps forward as a geopolitical force in its own right. This shift marks a turning point as European nations take responsibility for their own future and the stability of their continent. The coalition is a direct response to the failures of past diplomacy and the brutal reality of war. Years of negotiations and broken promises have led to this decisive moment. An attack on Ukraine will now trigger a united European response. The coalition's military forces stand ready, sending a clear warning to any aggressor. The world watches as Europe redefines its destiny, forging a future written by and for Europeans. The eyes of millions are fixed on this bold experiment in unity and shared responsibility. This is not just a headline, it's a seismic shift in the continent's security architecture. The decisions made today will echo for decades, shaping the balance of power in Europe and beyond. The stakes are high, the risks real, but Europe has chosen action over hesitation. Leaders know the path ahead will be challenging, but they are united in purpose and resolve. The Coalition of the Willing marks a new chapter, one of unity, strength, and shared purpose. Together, Europe and Ukraine step into the future, determined to defend their values and their freedom. The Coalition of the Willing is a robust, legally binding pact. 26 nations, including France, Germany, the UK, and Poland, pledging to defend Ukraine. This coalition marks a historic moment as so many countries unite under a single cause, demonstrating unprecedented solidarity in the face of aggression. The treaty's core is simple yet powerful. An attack on Ukraine is considered an attack on all coalition members, compelling immediate and coordinated assistance. This includes not just military support, but also intelligence sharing, logistical backing, and industrial cooperation. This isn't just about providing aid, it's a comprehensive framework for direct intervention and joint defense production. The agreement integrates Ukraine into Europe's security system, ensuring that its defense is a shared responsibility and priority. Joint manufacturing in Ukraine, Poland, and Romania will ensure steady, reliable supplies of ammunition, drones, and military vehicles. This collaborative effort strengthens the region's defense industry and creates new opportunities for technological innovation. The goal is clear: to make any further Russian aggression prohibitively costly and to empower Ukraine to defend itself indefinitely with the full backing of its European partners. By bypassing NATO's requirement for unanimous consent, the coalition offers Ukraine real, actionable guarantees, moving beyond promises to concrete commitments and rapid response. Europe is pooling its resources, expertise, and willpower, forging a formidable shield for Ukraine and the entire continent. This unity sends a powerful message to any would-be aggressor. This is Europe's answer to its greatest security challenge, a bold, decisive step toward lasting peace, stability, and a safer future for all its citizens. The coalition stands as a clear statement. European security is indivisible, and threats to one are threats to all. Ukraine's future and Europe's are now bound together, united in purpose, hope, and the pursuit of peace. The coalition's announcement sent shockwaves worldwide. Washington welcomed Europe's leadership, seeing a stronger partner and a chance to share the security burden. In Beijing, the response was cautious. China sees a precedent for democratic unity that could affect its own ambitions. Global South nations view Europe's move with a mix of admiration and concern, wary of new divides, but hopeful for a multipolar world. The coalition signals Europe's rise as a primary pole in global affairs, no longer a junior partner. Allies and adversaries alike must now recalibrate. The world's security landscape is shifting. Europe is at the center. This bold step redefines alliances and challenges old assumptions. A new era of international relations has begun. The Coalition of the Willing is Europe's answer to decades of failed security promises, a direct response to the continent's long history of unfulfilled commitments and wavering resolve. The 1994 Budapest Memorandum, where Ukraine gave up its nuclear arsenal in exchange for what turned out to be empty assurances, looms large in the collective memory of European leaders. When Russia invaded, those promises proved worthless. There was no enforcement, no real protection, and the world watched as agreements were ignored. Europe learned the hard way that only credible, binding commitments, backed by real action, can deter aggression and safeguard peace. Years of piecemeal aid and hesitant support left Ukraine dangerously vulnerable. The coalition aims to end this cycle of stop-and-start assistance. Now, a permanent, institutional framework is being built to ensure Ukraine receives the resources, weapons, and support it needs to not just survive, but to win. The timing is no accident. After years of brutal war and failed diplomacy, Europe finally recognizes that half measures and vague promises are no longer enough to meet the moment. The cost of instability, both economic and human, now clearly outweighs the risks of a more assertive, united response. Europe refuses to repeat the mistakes of Budapest and Minsk, where agreements were signed but never truly honored or enforced. The era of vague assurances is over. Real guarantees, backed by force and collective will, have finally arrived. This is a true turning point. Europe will no longer gamble its security or Ukraine's future on empty words and broken promises. The coalition stands as the answer to history's hard lessons, forging a new path built on unity, strength, and unwavering commitment. The coalition's formation is part of a global realignment. As Europe steps up, the US pivots to Asia, where competition with China intensifies and alliances shift. Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asian nations strengthen ties with the US while hedging with China. Middle powers like India, Brazil, and Turkey pursue independent strategies, refusing to be drawn into binary blocks. The old Cold War order is gone. A chaotic, multipolar world is emerging. Europe's new coalition adds another pole to this global chessboard. The interplay between Europe, the US, China, and rising powers will shape the coming decades. The world is more complex, and Europe is now a decisive actor. The US has long been Europe's security guarantor, but the coalition redefines this partnership. For years, Washington urged Europe to take more responsibility. Now, Europe answers that call. Europe shifts from dependency to co-leadership, allowing the US to focus on the Indo-Pacific. This division of labor is a sustainable model for a world of competing priorities. The US and Europe must now coordinate closely, aligning strategies and avoiding duplication. NATO's role will evolve, as most coalition members are also NATO allies. Diplomats face the challenge of harmonizing these frameworks. America's role is not diminished, but adapted. No longer the world's sole policeman, but the anchor of a network of alliances. The coalition strengthens both Europe and the US, ensuring a stable transatlantic partnership. A strong Europe is a vital American interest. Together, they are better equipped for a turbulent world. Moscow's reaction was swift. Condemnation, threats, and warnings of a new confrontation. Russia's strategy relied on a divided Europe. Now, it faces a united, determined adversary. The coalition raises the stakes for any further Russian aggression, closing the door to easy victories. Russia will likely deepen ties with China, Iran, and North Korea, seeking to build a counter-bloc. A new global divide may be hardening, not just in Europe, but worldwide. Expect intensified hybrid warfare, disinformation, cyber attacks, and political interference. The Kremlin's calculus has changed. A quick win in Ukraine is now out of reach. Russia must choose a costly, unwinnable war or a path to de-escalation. The coalition was designed to force this choice. The world watches as Russia faces a new, formidable reality. Signing the treaty was just the beginning. The real test is implementation. The coalition must quickly operationalize its guarantees, joint command, pre-positioned forces, and integrated training with Ukraine. Building joint defense industries will require unprecedented coordination and investment. Success means a steady flow of weapons and intelligence, giving Ukraine a decisive edge. The psychological impact is huge. Ukrainians gain hope. Russian forces face a united continent. Russia will try to exploit divisions. Coalition unity is essential. Economic costs will test political resolve, but leaders must make the case for long-term security. The journey from paper to practice will be tough, but Europe is committed. Ukraine's fight is now Europe's fight. September 5th, 2025, marks Europe's rebirth as a strategic actor. The coalition is more than a response to crisis. It's a new foundation for European security. Europe now owns its defense, leading with responsibility and resolve. This strengthens, not weakens, the transatlantic alliance. A decisive Europe is a stronger ally and a force for global stability. The coalition embodies Europe's new self-confidence and unity. The risks are real, but the cost of inaction was greater. Europe's future will be shaped by its own will, standing together for sovereignty, freedom, and peace.